Hey everyone, it's time to sew. And what are we going to do tonight? We're going to make this Chenille Shamrock pillow. And we're going to do it in two different ways. This one is done with an embroidery machine. And if you don't have an embroidery machine that accommodates something this big, then you can do it by sewing machine. And here's the one I did by sewing machine. So I'll be showing you how to do both of these this evening. And I'll even show you how to make this pillow to finish the pillow so that it looks really nice. Okay, let's get started. For the in the hoop shamrock pillow, you're going to need the following things. You're going to need to have about your at least a 9" by 9" hoop. You're going to need a tearaway stabilizer. You're going to need a background fabric, and I want something that's fairly densely woven. This will be for the bottom of the shamrock. I'm using, and this I did 10 inches by 10 inches. I have 3 layers of green flannel, or any fabric that's loosely woven, homespun, anything. You don't want to use a batik. It will not chenille up on you. So I'm just picked a nice loosely woven flannel from Joann's. Okay, you're going to need a bunch of bias strips, and I'll show you in a minute how to cut these bias strips. You're also going to need a background fabric, and I picked this one. This is how big it is depends on how big your pillow is. My pillow is going to finish out at 14, as I have a 14 by 14 inch pillow, and I measure it. Do not trust what's on the package of the forms that you get at the store. Always measure it. I usually cut my background fabric the same size, and you think, oh, I need to put in seam allowances. Yes, you do, but I don't like my pillows mushy. I like them well firm, and so I make them. So if my pillow sham is 14 by 14 and I cut this is probably going to finish around 13 to 13.5 inch square when it is finished, and that's good. That gives me a nice firm pillow. Sometimes it's a little hard to stuff the pillow form into the finished pillow, but you know, we can compress the foam, not a problem. I like to press my background fabric, so I have starched it so that it's nice and firm and less likely to be distorted. So I press that into quarters. Move that. And I have pressed also my stabilizer. I press into quarters because that gives me a starting point on how to load this. So I'm going to take my background fabric and get it the right, oops, sorry. Okay. Here's my background fabric. I'm going to match it up with the pressed lines and just smooth it down. Doesn't need to be adhered or anything because we're going to hoop this. But this gives me a starting place in order to hoop this 90% there. So now your hoop has got these notches right here. There's notches here on the horizontal and the vertical. I'm going to match up the top of the hoop, and it's got a little triangles, and there's this is the top of my hoop, and it's got little triangles too. So I can't do this sitting down, so I have to stand up, and I'm going to match up these notches more or less as close as I can get them in my hoop. So I'll push one into the other, and I'll bet I have not released the screw, so loosen that. So I have this aligned relatively in the center, and there we go. Now it's, well, I got a little ripple here, so I'm going to just release one end, straighten it out. Don't pull your fabric through, just sort of straighten it out, and then reset it. Okay, and that's good to go. And now we're ready to go to the embroidery machine. Okay, so I've loaded the shamrock file into the sewing machine. Just a reminder, this design is for a machine that will handle a 9" by 9" embroidery field. If your machine doesn't accommodate 9" by 9" and your field is actually smaller, you can actually go into your software and make the pillow smaller using sizing. If you have a 4x4 machine, that only stitches 4 inches by 4 inches. I recommend you do this by the sewing machine method, and it's just as easy. I have hooped the background fabric with the stabilizer. Right now it's relatively in the center. This is not particularly crucial that it be in the exact center, but you can use your targeting snowman or your camera in order to get it perfect, but it's not really going to matter. Okay, so anyway, I'll just go ahead and hit the first. I have green thread in my needle, and I have plain embroidery thread in my bobbin. I am using a size 14 embroidery needle. Okay, first stitch is going to give me the placement for the batik piece. Okay, the second step is to, let me pull this back a little bit. Alright, and then I'm going to actually take my glue stick, my Elmer's washable school glue, and I'm just going to just go inside the line a little bit, like this. Not much, especially down in here. I'm going to put my piece of background fabric on here, and so that it covers all of the stitching, and press it like that. Actually, I'm going to press this with my iron. I'm not going to do it on the machine, but I'm just going to take this off the hoop and just give it a quick touch with the iron inside the hoop while this is inside the hoop, so that it'll tack down. I've just pressed it down, and when you press it, it dries the glue and it doesn't gum up your needle. I'm going to stitch the second color stop, which will tack this fabric down. Okay, this next step, I'm going to trim away the excess fabric away from the applique piece. Helps to have a curved scissor. I know it's hard for you to see the stitching because I'm using green thread as well as green fabric. But I'm just going to go ahead and cut this. I'm going to cut this off camera because this can be a little tedious while doing this on the machine. You don't have to cut too close. Remember, we're going to be doing chenille work, so it's going to sort of extend beyond those edges, so you don't have to get them perfect. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay, I've trimmed this down, the edges, so that's good and sealed. I'm going to raise and put 3 layers of my flannel on the top. Here. Want to make sure it covers all of the stitching. Extends out beyond the stitching by a little bit. Smooth it all down. Okay, and now we're ready for the third color stop. And this is going to seal this piece down. Okay, and I'm just going to let that run for a little bit. It's doing a lightning stitch in order to secure those edges pretty well. Okay, actually what I could do is I could go ahead and take this out and trim this, but I'm just going to leave it for now because the next step is going to be stitching just a bean stitch to create all the little chenille bits. So I'm just going to simply hit the start button. I'm going to finish stitching this off camera because, you know, this is like watching paint dry. So I will be right back. Okay, we finished stitching the chenille tack downs. So I'm going to take this hoop off of the machine, but I'm still going to leave this hoop, the fabric in the hoop. So what I want to do is I now want to trim this from the outer edge. And you can do it one layer at a time or all 3 layers if you've got sharp enough scissors. I do not, so I'm going to do this one at a time. So I'm cutting this off right along the edges. Again, I'm not going to get all of this here. I'm going to finish this off. I can't, if you have a really sharp pair of scissors, you can actually get all these layers at one time. I can't, especially from the angle I'm trying to cut. I'm just going to cut a few here. And one more. So there's 3 layers to this. You can just leave that ragged. It's going to be covered by another layer of chenille. Okay, now what you can do while this is off the hoop is that you can go ahead and cut this outer layer. Actually the only place that you really need to cut against the stitches, it would be right down here. So I'm going to want to cut this down this way and up through here. We're going to need some 1/2 inch wide bias strips out of this flannel in order to create the chenille. So the easiest way is I've cut my block here is 10 inches long, but I'm just going to simply fold corners like that. And then I'm going to, let me switch it this way. Okay. And I'm just going to eyeball it that straight because we're going to need some bias strips, little 1/2 inch wide bias strips. Nice sharp blade. Sorta, or not. All right. When I'm dealing with bias, I don't try to go over it again. It's just easier to just simply snip out the little threads. And then I'm going to go and change my blade, because apparently it's not very sharp. These do not have to be perfect. Okay, and I'm going to just turn this around just so that I can get good cuts on it. Lay it out flat. Alrighty, and now that it's at the 1/2 inch, I'm just going to simply measure 1/2 inch on my quilting ruler. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to need probably, well, it depends. I'm going to need 2 layers of it for this, so I'm probably going to cut most of this. But I'm going to start out. I don't usually cut them all. I'll cut about 10 of them. And then when this is off the mat, scoot it over a little bit and just continue going. You will have some short ones and long ones, but we're not going to really have any waste with this because we're going to just layer one on top of the other. Okay, we're good. So now we're here at the embroidery machine. I put the frame back into the machine, and now it's going to start to do this outer stitching. So I'm going to put this right in the middle of that stitching line, and it's a little harder to see. And that's about in the middle. You can't, if you hold your finger in on the start button, it's going to go very slow. So I'm just doing really slow. until I am convinced. And it's just going to come down one little section at a time, and it's doing a bean stitch. If you're not comfortable, stop it and just keep starting. If you're not sure where it's going, and just keep your hand on this start button. And keep that piece of chenille right in the middle if you can. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Once it's all fluffed out, nobody will know the difference. Okay, I'm going to take my sharp scissors. And I'm going to cut it flat. Okay. I have 2 layers of this chenille. Okay. I'm going to just simply put this back in the middle over here. Let it overhang. It's fine. Okay. Lower. And let it. It's right in the middle. Okay. Sort of in the middle. Cut it about 1/4 of an inch off. Okay. It's going to do, every time it needs to turn, it's going to stop for you. So again, I'm going to put this here so that this needle is right in the middle of the piece of chenille. And just be ready to stop it if you start to go off. Start to curve it. Okay. It's a lot easier. I'm sitting at the side, so it's a little hard for me to see. But I'm not worried about it. I can always trim that. Okay. My one piece got a little bit small. So I'm just, one piece is bigger than the other, so I'll take the bigger one, put it on the bottom. I can see, and then I'm going to overlap that. We're going to do all this trimming, so don't worry about it being in the exact middle. There we go. And if you hold your hand, it's going to not go any faster than that. I'm holding in the stop and start button. And I see it's going in the right direction, so I can let go, but I'm going to be ready. You might want to put your speed down at its lower speed while you're here. You can curve it around the corner. Just take your time. It's a bias, so it'll turn for you. There. Going around the corners is a little tricky. I use the seam ripper. I don't have the stiletto here. Okay. I've got my finger here. Like I said, you hold it in. Just keep pressing it, and it won't go any faster until you let up. Actually, that's easier because I'm able to keep it in the center a little bit easier. When I'm not sure, double press it. If you're not sure, then when you let up, it speeds up. Okay, so I know this will shut just about. It's okay if it flips like that. This is only going to go, every time it has an angle, this is going to stop. Okay. Okay, what I did was I slowed down my machine to 350 stitches per minute. And I just found that I just have to sort of watch so that the needle is going down in the middle of the foot. And so what I usually do is I will sit and I'll hold this down and don't let it go till you know it's going somewhere and it's staying in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to double stop it. So I hit this twice in order to stop it so that I can get the next inch or so. Don't try to work any further than the next inch. And then what I did is I put my finger here in front of the, in the path of where the stitching is going. And then I'm going to keep my hand here on the start button. And it's going to go really slow. Only if I'm really sure will I let it go. The minute I see it start to go off, double click the start button and it'll stop. Okay, I'm going a little outside, so let me scoot that. Just hold it up. And I've been going that slow, and you can see on this top part of the shamrock it looks a lot better. See, I can go a little bit here. Okay, it's starting to get off a little bit. Okay. Okay, stop. Like I said, don't try to aim any more than about an inch at a time, because you will be sorry. Yeah, I'm sure the left side of this will look a lot worse than the right side of the shamrock. Okay, stop. Reposition this. Change direction, cut, and I think I have enough. Remember, I'm doing a double layer, so I'll just place this right in the center, and I'm not worried about whether I can trim it later. Okay, I'll lower this. Not very much. I only take my hand off the button when I'm absolutely sure that I'm dead center for a little while. Otherwise, I don't risk it. See, I'm not sure where it is. I'm just worried about keeping the chenille right in the middle of the stitching field. Losing it here, so stop, and it's curving the other direction. Here we go. Done. Okay. Let's take this off the machine and let's take it out of the hoop and let's start trimming it and fluffing it up. Okay. Okay, let's start to trim this up. So I'm going to trim these pieces off. See, a little bit long. Okay, this one's a little long. And over here where I was really off, I'm going to like trim some of this away. It's just too wide right there. That was really off here. So I'm just trimming it a little bit. Here's a trim. Okay. I get all these little bits out of here. Now we're going to start to trim this inside. We've already done this one. So this is where you want to have some good lighting. And I can go ahead and take it off of the hoop. So I'm going to take the stabilizer off. It's just a tear away. I don't need to take it out of the middle, it's fine. Alright, I'm going to start to trim this stuff up. So I'll start down here. And let's see. See, it's easier. That's already done. This part's done. Okay, went over here. Alright, now I'm going to start to trim it away. So I'm just reaching in. If I only get one, now I'm going to cut right down the middle between the rows of stitching. This, you want to take your time so that you don't cut through your fabric. What I don't want to cut is my bottom layer, which is that slightly different green, so that's good. So let me connect this here. Now I want to clip, anytime I have a sharp angle, clip right into that angle. And then once I get it through that bottom layer, I can usually just slip my scissors in there and just cut away. Again, take your time. I'm just going to cut one little lobe here. See, now these are my sharper scissors, so I am cutting all 3 layers at one time. I'm going to clip into a point. Okay. And it doesn't hurt if you've got curves going outside. You can take your scissor and snip and clip the curves about every ½ an inch or so. Okay. Now I'm going to cut this layer. Right down the middle. Oh, that one I got it real easy. Right down the middle. Okay, I have an outer curve, so I'm going to clip into the curve. Okay, I will be back. And I went and cut my bottom layer. Oh, that was not good. You know what? I ended up cutting the bottom layer here, but you know something? I'm just going to use a fabric marker and I'm going to hide the fact that you see white underneath. When I do that, I'm going to go back to doing one layer at a time. Just, I was showing off here. Okay, and one layer. If you just cut one layer at a time, then you are sure that you're not cutting the background fabric. There we go. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I have finished doing all the clipping. I only got a few spots where I went all the way through. So I'm going to take a toothbrush, and if this isn't really working, and it usually doesn't, take a mister. Just get it slightly damp, and then brush it. And now it's starting, usually going, just keep going. And you're going to get fuzz all over the toothbrush, but that's okay. You can also throw it in the washing machine. Although if you're going to put it in the washing machine, I recommend put it in one of those mesh lingerie bags, because this fuzz is going to be everywhere. You could even take a wire brush if you're real. And it's going to create some fuzz, so just brush it away. And really, if I missed it and got it, you can't even see it. So go in a circular motion against the, if it's going this way, rub this way. And then it will chenille up really nicely. And the more you wash it, the more it chenilles. I'll just work on this side. And if some comes up, no big deal. There's a lot of, I've used flannel. Flannel's got a lot of fuzz in it. My favorite to use is homespun, but they didn't have any. I haven't seen any green homespun in a long time. It ends up with a few little extra long pieces of thread. Just simply chop them. Just clip them off. Okay. Or I'll finish doing that later. But there you have it. Now this is ready to sew into a pillow or a tote bag or whatever you like. And it really makes a cute, and like I said, it's going to shed a lot, see? But that's okay. That's why we put 3 layers of this fabric down. So it will be fine. So anyway, I'll meet you on the pillow where I'm going to turn this into a pillow, and we'll talk about making and sewing and measuring for the perfect pillow. If you want a copy of this embroidery design, send me an email request at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to share the embroidery file with you. And this really turned out really nice. Okay, it's all fluffed out, and it looks as much like regular chenille as you could possibly ever ask for. In fact, this reminds me of the chenille bedspread that my mother had. And I do remember the time where my then little boys, who were supposed to be taking a nap, pulled out all of the fibers out of the chenille bedspread and had a big fluffy pile on the floor and a piece of cotton sitting on the top of them as a bedspread. My mother wasn't too happy about that, but this is the closest I have seen to something like that. So this turned out really nice. It's nice and fuzzy, and it turned out really cute. It's ready to be put into the pillow. Okay, I'll see you when it comes to putting the pillow together. Bye.